but need to bring in different elements to make a bigger impact in their communities and country. In Malawi, the Youth Leadership Academy received hundreds of applications from dedicated young people from across the country and from different sectors. 14 were chosen. Each month, the youth leaders come together and go through a module on civics, communications, branding, social justice, project management, to name a few. At the conclusion, they have the opportunity to take their learnings, develop a project proposal which they would like to lead. And we very much look forward to these project proposals, which should be coming in next month. Beyond political issues, young people everywhere have risen to the call for technological development, creating apps such as Zoom that allow the world to function amidst this pandemic around us. Malawi's very own M-Hub, Mzuzu E-Hub, and other similar organizations have been instrumental in this field, creating a multitude of apps that allow for information on health and agriculture to reach out to the remotest areas of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, it is only therefore benefiting from the theme for this year's International Youth Day, Youth Engagement for Global Action. The theme spotlights the ways in which voices and activism of young people are making a difference in Malawi and beyond. This year's theme further highlights how the engagement of young people at the local, national, and global levels is enriching national and multilateral institutions and processes. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality of all of this is that the population of young people has tremendously increased over the years, making them a key deciding factor in shaping any policies and institutions. According to the United Nations, by the end of 2065, the world's youth population is expected to reach its peak just at under 1.4 billion persons. In Africa, the youth population is expected to rise by 62% in the next 3 days. If any nation is to progress in any sector, it has to harness this youth dividend, tap into its youthful energy and intelligence, and propel this talent into meaningful gains. Colleagues, it is young people like you gathered here today who are leading your generation and your country towards further greatness. It is you that have taken the already bold steps to step out of your comfort zone and shape this country and pathways. Growing up, I always heard the phrase, the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. This generation and youth like yourselves have however dispelled this notion. You have risen up to shout, we shall not be leaders of tomorrow, instead we are leaders of today. By joining hands across the districts, across the regions, across political, religious, and tribal divides, young people have come together to unite in one thing, to spearhead development and prosperity to all, not only in Malawi, but across the world. It is therefore a commitment of the National Democratic Institute and all its donors, including the National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, and DFID, to work with young people in Malawi and across the world, to celebrate you, to harness your talents and aspirations, and aid you as long as you make changes to this world. Young people are at the forefront of our programs and will continue to do so in the next years to come. We believe in programs such as the NDI CSO Next Generation Leadership Academy that is equipping already talented young minds to be exceptional leaders of CSOs in Malawi. We believe in inclusivity, opening channels for young people to participate in politics, and we have demonstrated this by leading a quest to set up the first ever Parliamentary Youth Caucus. The results of such programs have already begun bearing fruits, with the first ever chairperson of the Parliamentary Youth Caucus being selected to the current Minister of Youth in Malawi. We wholly believe that these efforts and results already manifesting and are no means a small achievement. NDI has the full hope that all young people we engage in our programs will soon take up various leading positions in private and public institutions, and they will continue to change and transform this country to its full development potential. As you go on to take these positions, NDI will be with you along the way, supporting, cheering, and mentoring you. We're your friends today, and we pledge our friendship for life. In closing, I would especially thank all of you that have joined us in this special webinar, either online, on radio, or joining us on Zoom. Let me thank the distinguished Honorable Minister for Labor for taking the time off your schedule to be with us today. Let me also thank Ms. Hung and all your team at UNFPA for honoring us with your presence in what is otherwise a very demanding day. I wish also to extend my serious appreciation to all the panelists, moderators that have taken time off their busy schedule to share their experiences and mentor young minds. Importantly, let me thank the leaders of the CSO Next Generation Academy and my colleagues at NDI for working so hard to make this day a success. Last but not least, I thank everyone who has made time to join us today and participate in this webinar. I have full confidence that all the discussions will be lively, we will be well debated and bear influence on Malawi. As I sign off, I cannot stress enough the value that NDI places on young people and the potential you have. Never underestimate your potential. Never underestimate the power you hold to change this world. You are neither too small or too young to make a difference. We all know that wonderful saying, those that think they are too small to make a difference have never spent the night with a mosquito. Whatever your dreams are, whatever your ideas you have, now is the time to pursue them, for there shall never be another opportune moment. I wish all of you a wonderful International Youth Day. Let us indeed celebrate and push together youth engagements and global action. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. That was a well-delivered speech, and it reminds us what the African Youth Charter says, that youths are a key ingredient in the development of our specific countries. So next up is a session where we're going to open the lead on youth engagement in development of national strategies, job creation, and governance processes. And this panel discussion is rich with people who are going to give us those good insights and give us take away home messages. And I would like to invite Wangiwe Kambuzi to take lead on this panel discussion. And you feel free to ask questions on the chat. And also, this is a youthful event. Don't forget to take those selfies, post up on social media, hashtag NDI Malawi, hashtag Malawi itself, and tag you. Don't forget to tag everyone you see here so that we can also share your posts. Thank you very much. Over to you, Wangiwe.
Thank you, Tanaka. And good morning to everyone. And also thank you to Rishi for the amazing speech that you've just made. So without wasting much time, today we'll be having a session in regards to youth engagement and also how youth have been able to participate in various processes in developing policies or strategies that actually support the work that young people are doing and how they'll be able to progress in their daily endeavors. So today we will be joined with amazing panelists. We do have Honorable Vera Kamtukule, the Deputy Minister of Labor, and we also have Mr. Idrissa Mwale from the National Planning Commission, who's the Development Manager. And lastly, we have Dr. Henry Chingaibe, who's also going to be able to join us in participating in the panelists. So I am going to give each of the panelists 5 minutes to just share your views and experiences in regards to youth engagement and also having the youth participating in various processes in developing national policies or strategies, as well as anything that supports job creation as well as governance processes in regards to the youth. So we will start with Honorable Vera Kamtukule. if you can just share your views in regards to the topic of the day.
Much. Wangiwe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm sorry I may have to leave. I think in the next 15 to 17 minutes. So I think I'm so glad that you gave me the opportunity to start off. As you may be aware, the ministry has we have our work cut out for us. We have to create the 1 million jobs. So I think the 1 million jobs campaign was issue was the one of the major issues in the just ended campaign. Now I think probably the issue that is coming out is this possible? Is it possible for us to create the 1 million jobs? And I think the answer to that would be yes. And then probably we're going to talk about how we are going to create those jobs. So first off, I have to say that it's not necessarily the government of Malawi that is going to create those jobs. I think we have to get it clear from the onset there, because the government can only manage to get plus or minus 150,000, maybe. If we were to raise that number, it would be about maybe 200,000. So it's way away from the 1 million jobs that we're talking about. So where do we focus our attention then? It's the business sector, the private sector, and the bulk of which should be the SMEs, the small to medium scale enterprises. And this is where, for me, the young people are coming in very handy. As you are aware, 89% of the labor force is in the informal sector, and the bulk of that also are young people. But then the issue is coming in to say, how do we formalize these informal sector players that are providing the bulk of the employment in Malawi? And so for me, the critical issues would be, how do we capitalize on the SME? So there's a lot of things that have to happen. And the reason for this would be, number one, because they are able to generate more employment per capita, and also because they have an opportunity to use both skilled and unskilled people. Because I think what we are having at the moment, what we are seeing is that our young people, even those that are coming out of colleges, they are lacking some particular skills, these skills that set them apart. So for example, you have a young person that has just come out of Polytechnic, for example, they have a degree in business administration. But then when you really critically analyze to say, what kind of skills do you have? Because those are the skills that are going to set you apart and make you highly employable relative to other people. When you look at that, you see that young people are coming out of colleges and they are lacking those kind of skills that set them apart. And then when you look at the other elements of maybe the TVET skills, the technical and vocational skills, you will, when I was in college, would literally look down upon people that went to technical colleges. And yet when you see growing economies, they have placed a huge emphasis on technical skills, all right? In the UK, if you're seeing blocks, for you to get a plumber, you have to think twice because they are very expensive. Carpenters are very expensive. Technical skills, they are really, really, really expensive in growing economies. And yet in Malawi, we have put a low profile on our technical skills, and yet that's where we need to go. Now, full stop to that one. Going ahead, we have over 50,000 young people that are entering the job market every single year, and that 50,000 people should have been, I think 3 years ago, statistics of 3 years ago, that number should be high at the moment. We're talking about maybe 70,000 young people entering the job market every single year. And the jobs are not there. The jobs are not there not because we are corrupt or anything like that. The jobs are not there because we are not producing. If we are not producing, then it means our business ventures are not moving. And as long as things will remain, if we maintain that status quo, we will not have jobs for young people, both for now and the near future. This is why now I'm going back to what I said. The focus on creating the many jobs that we want to create will be largely on SMEs, especially the ones that are being run by young people that are vibrant. And I like what Richie said, to say the focus, young people shouldn't look down upon themselves, because I think for me, we need to get to a level where you shouldn't be thinking that you were created to go and work for an institution, work for somebody. You have enough potential to produce, to create something. As long as you're not creating, you can never move out of poverty, and our country will remain the way it is. Which is why, for me, I'm seeing that our focus, both for now, in the midterm to the longer term, is still going to be on SMEs, especially those that are run by young people. Let me stop there for now.
Wonderful. Okay, so since you also have to leave, I think I'll just direct about 2 questions to you before you leave, so that you just finish up your insights, and then we can go to the next person. So basically, you've talked about empowering SMEs, especially the youth. According to a survey that was done by the FinMac Trust, they did produce a report last year, the FinScope survey. It does highlight that Malawi has about 42% of youth that are actually in business. But what they're mainly lacking is probably the skill sets that will actually enable them to actually go ahead with growing their business or becoming successful. And most of them are also just more or less stumbling on the same level. So my question would be, what are your plans in terms of engaging people that have already been working towards enabling a conducive environment for these people to thrive? So probably looking into hubs that actually provide training or mentoring services to these people, or others that are actually providing acceleration services to actually provide capital for these SMEs to be able to thrive. How have you set up plans towards engaging with these people that have actually been working towards creating an enabling environment for SMEs, especially youth, to thrive?
Thank you so much. I think I'll answer that in I'll not give you a straight response. I'll give you what we are planning. Apologies for that. But we have created a roadmap that is going to take us, it's going to culminate to create the creation of a strategy on how these jobs are going to be created. And pretty much from the outset, I think from the very first week, it was very clear that our local enterprises, they have a huge potential. And one of the issues that is happening now, of course, is the issue of skills, the issues of quality. But to a greater extent, to be fair to our SMEs, people have quality. I don't know if you've seen the things that people are producing. I don't know if you've seen those boots that young people are using leather to produce and all of that. If you go to the agriculture fair, there's amazing stuff that people are producing. So I think we're not short of quality at that level. But probably, I think issues of maybe skill, issues of market. So you have produced, but what's the profit in that if you produce and then you don't have a market where you're going to sell your goods? So there's issues of tax incentives, issues of the same products that we are producing in Malawi, but people prefer to buy those that have been imported from the outside. So there's legal issues, trade issues, and all of that. So as we are producing this roadmap that we are championing as a ministry ourselves, we are also collaborating with other ministries, because there are some things that we can do ourselves as a ministry, but there are some things that other ministries is a responsibility of other ministries. So for example, trade and industries that would come up with issues of maybe putting a ban on imports on specific commodities that are locally, so that we give an opportunity to young people that are producing the same things locally. But also there's this issue that have been raised where people are saying, if we can get a contract from government to produce something, then maybe we can scale and then benefit from economies of scale, as it were. Then we also have an issue of where somebody has a brilliant idea, but they need to be incubated to enhance their skills in their chosen trade. And so, as we have, I think now we are developing 2 incubation centers, one at Lilongwe Technical College and another one at Sochi Technical College. We, working together with TVET, we are going to identify those young people that should be incubated, hand-holding them in the process. And also, I think with other players like MHub that are very good in the tech side on issues of incubation and also agri-tech and all of that. But also, I think just using facilities like MEDEF to capitalize those enterprises that have that kind of potential to grow. And I'm not just talking about a 100,000 loan. I'm talking about building the capacity of an enterprise that would make a significant impact, both in terms of job creation, but also in terms of building that business for it to grow. And of course, I've also already talked about the legal framework that is not the sole responsibility of the Ministry of Labor itself, but also we have to look at Ministry of Finance, because when you look at issues of taxation, for example, it is not only going to be the responsibility of labor, but what we could do is to bring it out in the fall to say, these are the bottlenecks that are there for people to thrive in their businesses. You're looking at the entire value chain and not just one thing in particular. I don't know if I've answered that question, but I wanted to give an overview in terms of the context that we are looking at this thing.
Awesome. No, I think that was really amazing to hear that there's actually a roadmap that is actually in place towards supporting all the initiatives that will be run towards supporting youth SMEs. So lastly, you have talked about the TVET.
I just wanted to give a little bit of context in terms of the roadmap. So now, okay. Remember, there's been a lot of issues that would come in and people would say, no, you didn't consult with us and all of that. Now, yes. What we're discovering is that as a country, I think we have for a long time done a bit of everything. And so we have been doing some consultation with key stakeholders in the economy, right? And so, for example, people in the mining sector, people in the agriculture sector, people in the tourism sector, and already it is showing in terms of where our focus should be, not neglecting the other elements, of course, but there will be other sectors of the economy that we should be focusing on. So hypothetically, maybe there can be 5 or 6 of them where we need to exert our energies to say, if we zero in on these sectors, I think we will create so many jobs and then we will steer the economy into the right direction. And so as we're doing those consultations, the picture is getting a little bit clearer. And then there'll be dimensions within a particular sector. There'll be issues of value chains, ecosystems that may have to be created within that. So I think we are anticipating that probably at the end of September or at the beginning of October, we should be launching the strategy of how we're going to create the jobs. And I want you to know that it's going to be participatory and that a lot of people are involved in its development. So sorry, I just wanted to, before you go to your next question, just to give a highlight of that.
Okay, wonderful. Now we'll look forward to September and we'll be very excited to actually also be able to participate in the launch. So lastly, looking into the fact that we've talked about youth in general, I would love to also hear your insights towards what are the plans towards empowering young women, knowing that most times they don't normally have access to various resources that they could be able to access in a general context if they were just as a part of society as normally we would expect, which is not normally the case. So what are the plans that are available towards empowering young women that are actually looking towards starting a business or that already are running businesses within Malawi?
At the moment, the government has the MEDEF facility that I know you should be aware of, and there's a particular product that is targeting women. There's a particular product that is also targeting young people. Now, of course, without necessarily providing a lot of information in terms of what the government plans are in that regard, what I can say at the moment is that we have discovered that especially even the cooperatives that are being run by young women, they are doing amazingly well in several sectors as well. I'll give you an example of the mining sector. There's a lot of young women that are doing amazing work in that sector, and they just need a little bit of boost for them to elevate themselves to a certain level. And so we are looking to creating particular windows, particular models that we can work with young people. Because what we have seen is that if we continue doing things in the conventional way, where we are saying girls or women should go through the conventional way of education, the academia and whatever, and then they create groups, and then they get there, and then they can access a loan and whatever. Or even, because you should understand that most of them are not registered. So they are running businesses, but they are not necessarily registered. So if you're not registered, then obviously access to finance will be a little bit compromised. So what we are doing now is that even though they are belonging into the informal sector of business, there should be a particular product that is targeting those ones. And we are engaging with the chamber of the MCCCI, but there's also another chamber of SMEs. There's also SMED, part of the institutions that we are working with, and then of course MHub and several other institutions that do work with these young women on the ground, so that they can come to the fore, and then we look at their issues, and then maybe through MEDEF we get to help them access these the financial boost that they do require. There's an issue that is going around at the moment. We have seen, I think, an upsurge of young girls that are getting pregnant, very, very young girls from the age of 10 going upwards. If that situation is not contained within the short to medium term, then we are sitting on a time bomb. And therefore, if we are working with these women, girls, and young groups in terms of doing all of these things, I think for me, it'll have the multiplier effects that are going to be harnessed from there are also going to reflect in us even sorting out some of those social issues that we are facing at the moment.
All right. Thank you very much. And to sum it up, since the 15 minutes is now done for you, please send out your message to the youth in regards to the International Youth Day, so that we may allow you to go to the next meeting. Otherwise, thank you so much. It's been so nice to have you. Oh, she's probably answering a call. Oh, you're still there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
You know that my heart is with young people, and my message to young people on International Youth Day today is two things: have vision, and then commit to it. Because when you have a vision, you know where you're going. When you are committed, you are going to be in a place where you're going to create something. When you create something, that's the only way you can succeed. We are not succeeding because we are a corrupt nation, or because we don't have an education, or because we don't have skills and whatever. Those things, yeah, probably they contribute. But the key issue is because we are not committed to something. And that comes in because it becomes a little bit cooler to do what that person is doing. And then you neglect what you're really good at. Because God, in his infinite mercies, made each one of us a little bit unique to the other person. And so even creating Chukoloba, making a mop, all right? You and I can be given that task, but you are going to do something, a mop that is going to last for 5 months, and my mop is going to last for 2 weeks, all right? Each one of us has a unique ability to do something. And young people, if they could just change their mindset, fine, maybe things were not right. Okay, things were not being done correctly. Young people are not being given opportunities and whatever. That is okay. But that shouldn't be a reason for us to say, things are already like that, then what can I do? No, rise above that noise and create something. And when I talk about creating something, I'm talking about every sector of life. So in the agriculture sector, in the technology sector, in the tourism sector, anything. I was meeting one of your young people yesterday in my office yesterday, and he was telling me he started his business with 150 waja. He bought his first bread that he started selling with 150 waja. It really, really interested me. I was like, oh my God. It's not the capital that is going to make you succeed. It is the idea. The idea is going to earn you a seat at that table. You don't have an idea, you have nothing to bring to the table. You don't have something to bring to the table, you are not going to get that kind of invitation. And it is irrespective of where you are. It is irrespective of your gender, wherever you are. If you have something to bring to the table, the world is going to start to pay attention to you. And that's the message that I want to bring to young people today. I wish you a fantastic International Youth Day, and know that the government is solidly behind you and it is relying on you to carry this home.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for the amazing insights and for the beautiful message. So for the young people, you've heard it. Rise above the noise and make sure you have a vision and you commit to it. That's the message from Honorable Vera Kamtukule. And we thank you so much for being with us today, and we wish you a lovely day as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to go now. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later after this meeting. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we'll go to Mr. Idrissa Mwale. We do have about 10 to 12 minutes just to wrap up the discussion on youth engagement. Are you there, Mr. Mwale?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Wangiwe, and your fellow members. Thank you, the panelists. And thank you that you considered engaging the National Planning Commission on your special day, that we could at least present to you what, as a commission, we are doing in terms of engaging the youth in the programs and the strategies for the country. I will want to present to you what
Hello. Are you able to hear Mr. Mwale? Or
no, okay. we have lost him.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Lusungu may wish to.
He just rejoined, so I think Mr. Mwale, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Sorry, I'm back. I lost some connection here.
Okay, no
internet had let me down. Yeah, right. What I was saying was that the next vision that we are developing is reaching out to 2063. 2063 because by 1963 we got self-governance in this country. Now I want to make sure that by 2063 we have at least economic independence as well, not only political independence. So the next vision is reaching out to 2063, which, as I said, we are calling it National Transformation 2063. And this vision is youth-driven. What we have done so far is to engage the youth at the conception stage, right from the consultations itself. We have engaged the youth, and we engage the youth during the implementation as well as monitoring of the vision. Because we know by 2063, some of us will not be here, but you, the youth, will be there for by that time. Some of you will be there, and we wish you all the best coming to 2063. So what have we done? You may wish to know. What we have done as the National Planning Commission is to come up with what we are calling the Core Advisory Panel. This Core Advisory Panel comprises of eminent youth that we have in Malawi. We came up with this Core Advisory Panel through consultations with the National Youth Council and others that gave us the names. So we have got 12 members of eminent young people like yourselves across the country. There are some from the northern region, Zuzu, Blantyre, Lilongwe. And further to that, we also recognized that political parties also have got youth wings within the political parties. So we reached out to political parties to give us members as well. So we've got the members from the political parties that are represented in the National Assembly into this Youth Core Advisory Panel. Youth Core Advisory Panel is a critical platform where we give the chance to the youth to tell us what they want to see come 2063, to tell us what kind of Malawi do they want to see and how do we get there. As I said, we want the youth to be to take lead in implementing this vision and to take lead in monitoring what is happening, and again to monitor and report what is happening come 2063. We have also undertook special groups that we consulted when we were coming up with the vision, that's transformation. We had the youth debates in tertiary university, Lusungu University, Chancellor College Polytechnic, Kamtukule College of Nursing, where we got views from the tertiary group, tertiary category in the education sector. Going beyond that, we also recognize that there are other youth that are out there that might not have participated in the debates, but also might not have reached them out through the phone-in programs that we have had as the consultation. So we undertook a special program to engage the communities right where they are. This country has adequate community radio stations. As we're talking now, our team is out there engaging the youth through these community radio stations. The idea is not to leave everyone behind. We don't leave any youth behind in this process. Lastly, on the engagement, what we have done, you might have seen in the papers, we float out an advert calling for the youth contribution. This is through an essay competition. So we ran an essay competition whereby we solicited ideas from the youth from the primary category, secondary category, and tertiary. So the primary are competing themselves, secondary they're competing themselves, as well as the tertiary. We have received very good feedback. We have received very good suggestions on what kind of Malawi do they want to see. If we say Malawi has developed, what are the indicators? So we got this information. We are doing an analysis and assessment, and then we identify who is the winner. And this we are going to have top three winners in each category: the primary, secondary, and tertiary. And each will go away with prizes ranging from laptops, phones, smartphones, and cash prizes. The idea is not to leave any youth behind. We want to have as many contributions from the youth. Going forward, what are we saying? What we want, as I said, is this is a youth-driven vision. And it is, the theme of it is inclusive wealth creation and self-reliance. This augurs well with what the minister was talking about of creating 1 million jobs. Going beyond 1 million jobs, we can also do better. If we create wealth in this country, the youth will be able to start businesses, run their own businesses, get employed or employ others into the work that they are doing. So national agenda is the one that you are proposing. Secondly, going forward, it's good to hear the Honorable Minister talking about support towards the youth, because we want a political will to implement this vision. This youth-driven vision has to be implemented with political will, and you are happy to hear from that. And lastly, we want to engage and appeal to the youth to be the champions of change within your constituencies. We cannot deliver as a country if the youth are left behind. We want to run, want to go, want to implement these programs with the youth. We want you to be champions of change in this country. Lastly, let me finish off with a reflection. More precious than our children are the children of our children. More precious than our children are the children of our children. This, the youth, I leave it to you. Thank you so much for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwale. And we really like that reflection that you just made on more precious than our children are the children of our children. So it's not just about us as youth that are existing now, but also the generations that are upcoming. Amazing insights. And now we will just go to Lusungu and just hear her insights as a young person as to how she's been able to participate in various initiatives and how her experience has been towards engaging with various stakeholders within Malawi. So Lusungu, Can you please share your experience? And I will be able to take a few questions after you speak. So Mr. Mwale, please be there and just hold on for the Q&A session.
Okay,
Go ahead,
thank you, Wagi. Okay, so Lusungu Mkandawire. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for participating and for the moderator for giving me the opportunity to share my experience as a young person in Malawi in terms of my participation in when it comes to governance and development. Okay, let me begin by saying it is true that platforms have been made for the youth to participate in governance and development in our country. And it is true that people are working each and every day to ensure that youth are heard, youth are participating in a number of activities and that affect the development of the country. But I'd like to say that most of them aren't as much profiled, to the extent that a lot of the youth out there do not know what is really happening underground. The activities that are taking place in order to ensure or to enhance the youth to be at the platform where they can be heard, where they can participate truly and fully. What am I saying? I'm saying personally, it took me a long time to realize that there are a number of platforms, or there are a number of, I should say platforms where the youth, where people are tackling issues to do with the youth. Like for example, what Idrissa just said, engaging the youth, calling out for the ACEs so that they can voice out, share their ideas. It was difficult for me to come out and say, where can I go or where can I participate in order to be heard as a young person, so that I give out my ideas. But let's be realistic. The youth are the driving force behind our development, if we're talking about the next generations to come. But we haven't been given much profile. So that was a challenge for me to come out and stand out and say, I want to be a leader one day, but who do I turn to? Who empowers me? Who enforces me? So it was only through the NDI, when I went through the NDI, of course, hopefully with also the help of the organization that I'm working with, it was through the NDI that I got a chance to explore and to be enhanced in my skills to the extent that I can now say that I've met a number of people and I've been helped a lot in building my skills, especially to the secretariat of the NDI. They've been really good. They've helped me a lot in enhancing my leadership skills, my communication skills, and also even in my project management skills that I'm now exposed and I'm able to know. But it's there are a few people, there are a few youth that have the opportunity that have been given to say, where do they stand? So somebody can notice them. So somebody can capture their idea. How do they come out? Because they are at the grassroots, they are hidden and they don't know what is happening outside there. So who takes them out of where they are? Who hears their ideas and then exposes them to the level that maybe I may say I am today? So if we could focus more on profiling a lot on what is happening to tackle the youth, on what the country or the various sectors are doing and the various people are doing, the high profile people are doing in order to address issues to do with the youth. Profile them, make them known to the youth, even somebody who has not gone to school. They should be able to know, okay, there is this program that is addressing issues concerning my life, concerning my leadership skills, concerning my communication skills, and how can I get into contact with those people? How do I come out of where I am and be at that level that I want to be? Because without that, then it's more like we're just being theoretical and not being practical. If we are addressing issues that have to do with the youth, and then the youth do not know about it, who are we targeting? Who are we reaching out to? So everybody has to know what exactly is happening. And we can only do that by profiling the issues that we are tackling. Like for example, Honorable Vera was talking about the roadmap. We are privileged to hear of it firsthand right here, because she was with us. But you go down, deep down into the rural areas and ask somebody, maybe even after the implementation in September, you ask if somebody knows anything to do with it, anything about it. You find that only a few of the youth will know something to do with it. But we shouldn't look only at the formal sector. We should also go deeper into the informal. Make them know the opportunities that are there for them. Make them know that they are capable of moving from where they are and being highly profiled, regardless of maybe the education that they have, because most of the youth are now getting their skills informally. We have more like 82% of the youth being getting their skills informally, but we sideline them because they do not know what is happening. And we haven't much profiled the issues that are in place that are tackling the issues that are to do with the youth in development and governance. And I would also like to say, maybe if we could use the communication skills, like using the local structures. I heard Idrissa was talking about utilizing the community radio stations. Yeah, that is one of the way to go. But I would also like to say, maybe if we could, I think there's a challenge in trying to communicate, people bringing themselves down to the level of the youth, because most of the youth are also, we shouldn't run away from the illiterate rate of our country. Some people, it's hard enough to listen to a program at the radio station which is addressing technical languages that they do not understand. So if we can bring ourselves down to say, how do I address somebody, even somebody who has never been who has never stepped maybe in standard 5, so that they should know there's something that I want to tackle that is addressing something that is happening in their lives. So I would also say we should also look at utilizing communication skills or strategies, I should say, that will enhance youth participation, will enhance the youth in just being aware of what is happening, what is there to address the issues that they're going through each and every day in their lives concerning governance and development. Thank you, Andy.
All right, thank you so much, Lusungu, for the amazing insights. My key takeaways from that are that we need to actually work so hard on providing access to information, especially for those youth that are within rural areas and quite vulnerable to access certain information or get certain exposure as much as they're doing such great work. And also the importance of storytelling. So profiling various work that youth are working on within Malawi to actually encourage role modeling for upcoming youth to learn something as they develop themselves. So thank you, Lusungu. That was really amazing and insightful, and hopefully someone has been inspired with also the lessons that you've learned through the CSO Academy, and they'll look forward to apply so they can also learn some of the skills that you've gained. Thank you so much. So going back to Idrissa to just complete the session is a question that has been posted by Tricia Mangombo. She says, I am pleased with how the National Planning Commission is engaging youth in the 2063 agenda. My question is, will they be able to incorporate all the ideas from youth? And when will the report based on all consultations made be available? So Mr. Mwale, please give us feedback on that question, and then we'll be able to close the session for today.
Morning once again. Thank you, Tricia, for your good question. We will incorporate, and we have already done that. We have already incorporated the issues that are coming out from the consultations. As I said, we're still continuing, and I can assure you, we'll be taking these issues on board. This vision is, as I said, is youth-driven. So it cannot be youth-driven when I've left it out completely when the youth are contributing. You may wish to know that UNICEF is being very supportive to the Commission in terms of how we are engaging the youth. So surely, and for your information, one of the essays that is going to win is going to be printed in the vision itself. So that's one way of showing you that your views will be incorporated. We have a plan that come October, the document should be launched. So our plan is that by October, we're going to have the next vision in place launched, because its implementation will start in 2021. I hope that addresses your comments. But if there are any comments, any issues that you want to make, any contributions, just write to us at dg@npc.mw, dg@npc.mw. You can also reach us on our website at www.npc.mw. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So I think there's also one last question, unfortunately. Been following the 2063 agendas, basically it's on radio, TVs, and social media. What are you doing to get views from the underprivileged? So I believe these are youth from the rural areas. This question is coming from Gibson Chisale.
Thank you, Gibson. If you heard me right, I said that we are in the communities right now. We are engaging the youth in the communities through radio programs. Like today in the morning, we could have a radio program in, say, Zomba. And then in the afternoon, we're going out to the communities either to meet the village head with the youth that have been mobilized. We know there are platforms in these areas that have been guided by UNICEF. So we are reaching out to those people on the ground. So we have sampled, we cannot reach out to every corner of Malawi, but we have sampled. I think we are reaching out to almost 15 or 16 districts across the country. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwale. We appreciate your presence and also the responses that you've been able to give us in regards to the upcoming vision. And we hope and look forward that as much as it's been incorporating the youth aspect, during implementation, you will also be able to track how youth are also still participating and contributing highly towards national development in Malawi. So otherwise, thank you, Lusungu and Honorable Vera Kamtukule, as much as she's left. It's been nice engaging with you all this morning and for the great insights. Hopefully the youth are able to learn a thing or two, and look forward to working with you all as we support Malawi's growth and development. Otherwise, for me, it's been very nice to also moderate the session. Thank you so much to NDI and the entire team under the Next Generation Leadership Academy. Happy International Youth Day to all of you and to all youth in Malawi. Have a lovely day and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wangiwe, for the nice moderation. It's really interesting. We're not going to have Esther because of other problems, but rather we should go to our next session. The topic of this next session is addressing education needs and security reproductive health and securing reproductive health and rights of the youth in the take of COVID-19 pandemic. Our moderator is Asham Kosam. Let me invite Asham Kosam to the floor.
Maybe just one announcement. Asham, can you make sure you log in using the link I've sent to your email address? You are now logged in as an attendee. You cannot moderate from there. Please check your link in your email. The same goes to all the panelists that are coming after this session.
So as we wait for the moderator to come through, I would love to just the annual discussion. First of all, we have Mr. Chimwemwe John Paul Manyozo from Mapuzo 265. And then we also have Mr. from Ministry of Health, the Reproductive Health Department. And we also have Ms. Wong Yun Hong, the resident country representative for UNFPA Malawi. And I'm already excited about this panel discussion because it's going to talk of what we're facing currently, the unprecedented times of COVID-19, and also related to the education sector. So without further ado, as we wait for the moderator to come, I would love Mr. John Paul Manyozo. Could you open up with us? Do you think we're doing enough on the education sector during this COVID period?
That's a very tricky question. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think I'll start by saying we are doing, okay, let me just go back to the history. So as a country, we have COVID-19. And of course, the road to acknowledging that we have registered a case to COVID-19, I think has been a tricky one, but eventually we ended up registering that we have COVID-19 cases. And there was an acknowledgement from the government through a statement that we got from the Ministry of Health. And based on that information, the previous administration then made a decision that schools have to be closed. And the closure of the schools was basically based on understanding that by closing schools, people are going to be made to be safe at home because schools at that particular time, including now also, were viewed as places that might increase the transmission of COVID-19. So with that decision, we saw primary schools closed, preschools were closed, secondary schools were closed, and universities were closed. So as far as I'm concerned, both private and public institutions were closed. So as we are talking now, basically, we have seen some universities, mainly universities, that have also tried to make an initiative to go into online learning. The feedback has been a mixed bag because some of the universities have been able to pilot and they have results that were able to show that this is an approach that as a country we might take, despite the fact that after doing an assessment of the programs, they were able to get feedback from students who were saying, based on our income or where we stay, it is impossible for us to be able to access the particular facilities that you have put in place. We have MUST, for example, ABC, and a couple of other universities that have experimented with online learning, and the results are again a mixed bag. Coming to secondary school, I've seen, I think it's Telecom Networks, together TNM, in partnership with the Malawi government, where they have tried to pilot also providing online learning. And there is a platform that has been put in place to ensure that people are able to access that platform. And again, the feedback also has been a mixed bag. Some people have been able to access while others have not been able to access. And for us to understand better, I think when it comes to the issue of access, I just wanted us to talk a bit about the statistics before I answer the question which you have raised, because I think context is going to be important when you're coming up with the answers. So if you look at this country, we have 2.2 million users of internet. This is against a population of 17 plus million. So 2 million people have access to the internet. 540,000 people have access to social media. So when you're looking at initiatives that are internet-based, you are targeting the 2.2 million. Does it mean the entire population of 18 million, they are students or they are in school? No. Then the question is, who is that population of the people that are in school, and are they above 2.2 million? And now what can be done to deal with people that are outside of that 2.2 million? Which comes to the issue now of radios. we have in Malawi currently, at least based on the macro report, you're looking at 96% of people have access to radios in this country. And going back as well, when you're looking at this particular country, we have experimented with a Tikwere radio program, which has been funded by USAID. This program has been running for years. I haven't seen the assessment reports yet, but I'm just thinking that the Tikwere program that was implemented by USAID together with the Malawi government also provides lessons that we can draw from. If you're looking at a country that has 96% of people that have access to the radio, isn't radio something that we might also consider exploring, bearing in mind that also the people in this country can have access to the radio? And by having access to the radio, they are also going to be able to have access to that radio at home, and they are going to be safe as they are also learning. Even if we're talking about the same radio, we might even go further down and talk about community radios, for example. We have 17 community radios in this country, 17. And the 17 community radios in Malawi are spread across, which means even when we are doing radio programs in community radios, within the 17 community radios, catering to different populations, we should be able to provide education to the community radios. Mobile phones. In terms of messaging, we have, for example, UNICEF has a platform, it's called U-Report, and UNICEF has been using this platform to run several surveys. Currently, just before I go to this program, the European Union and the African Union have put out a survey asking for technology needs that people have. And U-Report is a platform that was put in place specifically targeting young people. So you are able to have also get information based on that information on what are we looking at in terms of the platform. Now, the final part is going to be now the issue of offline, because there might be some people that might not have access to this technology. And again, when I've given you this background, you have an understanding that it's a certain portion of the population. And of course, the argument, which I have never bought, is these are hard to reach people. I have never bought it because when it comes to elections time, ballot boxes are able to reach the so-called hard to reach areas. So it's not necessarily hard to reach. These are people we have decided not to reach with development projects, but when we need them to vote for us in power, we move heaven and earth, helicopters and everything to ensure that these people are accessed at that particular time. So what do we do for these people that we claim are not reachable when it comes to development projects, but are reachable when it comes to time for voting? We can have classes. The government is telling us that the regulations are saying we have supposed to have a gathering of not more than 10 people. Is it possible to run a gathering of students that are learning in smaller groups by a facilitation of teachers where it's not more than 10? Absolutely. Why? Because the other people are targeted by the technology, and then you have excess teachers that currently are not working but are getting paid, which can be deployed to these areas to be able to provide that level of service. There are measures that can be taken, which the government has been guiding us on how they can prevent in terms of providing that level of education. Does it mean it's going to be 100% proof that there's not going to be transmission of COVID? Yes and no. But this is something that I believe a combination of technology and a combination of also doing offline education should be able to reach to as many people as possible. So are we doing enough? We are doing a foundation, but I think there's a lot more that we can do. So let me stop there.
All right, that's great context that you have provided us to give a good foundation to the discussion. So next, I would love to pose a question to Ms. Won Young on how important is International Youth Day to her and UNFPA and what it means to her. Thank you very much.
Good morning to you all, and then happy International Youth Day. I was thinking how aged I have been because I'm not, the day any longer. So I really wish to all the young people living in Malawi and elsewhere really celebrate the day, but also think about what it means having such a day and what we should do more in order to continue to celebrate through these 365 days, not only the one day. Okay, what it means International Youth Day to UNFPA. And I'm sure that a lot of you are aware of our name of the UNFPA as the group of the people, organization, working on this sexual and reproductive health and right of the people at all age. But because of the large segment of the population in Malawi and globally are belonging to younger age groups, we are much more focusing on the working with the young people to realize their rights on the sexual and reproductive health. Since 75% of the population of Malawi is below age of 35. So for UNFPA, if we claim that we are working on the sexual reproductive health and rights of people, we cannot exclude the young people because they are the majority of our beneficiary and our partner and the client. And this is the country where almost 500,000 of babies are being born almost every year. If I'm counting their even mother, and those babies were not born because of maternal deaths and newborn deaths, etc., we're talking over 1 million people every year are experiencing of the birth through the mother. Secondly, we have quite large number of HIV, AIDS population, and women, especially the adolescent girls, are almost twice a higher rate of the infection than the boys and men. So we still need to address those issues, not only the HIV and AIDS, but sexually transmitted disease as well. And also young people are very important agent for changes to UNFPA. In what sense? Large portion of the population are born from the teenage mother. Teenage mother, when they are pregnant, one of the first thing they do or they are forced to do is drop out of the school. When they drop out of the school, there are chance for getting a better job. There are chance for making the better life. There are chance for the getting out of the poverty, almost destroyed. And a lot of girls who are getting pregnant, they are marrying off and they make the decision to even marry to someone else, sometimes much older, sometimes the same age group. But usually these girls who are pregnant during their teenager, they do not have much option for life to change their life the way they wanted to live or the way they dreamed about. So one pregnancy, one decision or event on the sexual reproductive health and right, which means their body have an impact through their entire life. Because the day she knows she is pregnant, she will make the decision or she will be forced to make the decision, leave the school. Once they do not have the proper education, they will continue to live as just as a housewife or just a mother or wife, so without actually exploring the opportunity elsewhere. So her life will be more or less decided. And how about their children? According to the fertility rate in this country, women in the reproductive age usually have 4 to 6 children, considering certain level of the mortality of infants. So 4 to 6 children are born from this lady who dropped out of school because she was pregnant before age of 18. Then there are 4 to 6 children coming from her, usually will follow the very similar lifestyle because of poverty, because of non-accessible opportunity, very lack of services, they can be lifted from the poverty. So a lot of cultural, economical reason and the environment where they are operating, as well as fundamentally, the day she made the wrong decision or she was forced to make the wrong decision about their body has impact of her children, and obviously through the generation. So it is actually very major challenges for Malawi. Is facing, because even though we have one digit, 6 to 8% of the economic growth every year, the population growth rate, especially those population coming from the teenage mother, which is almost 1/3 out of the 500,000 baby per year, continue to put those segment of the population live into the poverty. So International Youth Day, we want to empower the youth. We want them to know about their right. We want them to have access to services. We want them to behave for their own benefit in using the knowledge and the scientific evidences. So their future cannot be prevented from exploring all kinds of options available out there. So how are we going to work with them? How are we going to empower them in a meaningful way? Because the previous speaker mentioned about a lot of challenges in the education. And I not only myself, I think many of our young people will say, the challenge is to access to sexual reproductive health and rights. How are we going to overcome these challenges? And then most importantly, I wanted to also discuss with the young people on the International Youth Day. Do we need money and the resources always? Change my own behavior, change my own culture of my family. Can it change my relationship? The way we are engaging with other youth? Do we have to wait for somebody to help? Or while we are trying to bring more resources, bring more service to the community and the young people in the hard to reach area, also what we can do now in our community. And because someone said in the Facebook, I was scrolling down what people are talking about. We are talking about today. The young people are not tomorrow. 75% of the young people are the Malawi population. So we're talking about today development is very much depending on the young people, especially sexual reproductive health behavior and the decision making. So this is one of the reasons we are opening up the dialogue with the young people on the International Youth Day. As our main target beneficiary, we need to serve you, but at the same time, the main partner, we need to make the changes because we don't have time to wait for every single resources to create enough services, enough outreach program to provide everything to the youth. Then we need to be innovative. I need your wisdom and action to really change our society immediately. Over to you.
That was great remarks from Ms. Yoon Young, where she highlighted how much UNFPA is committed to changing the current status quo. And I'm glad she mentioned the most talked topic currently, which is the high teenage pregnancies. So on that mark, I would love to pose this question I'll start with Vincent Tom. What are you doing as an organization or as an individual towards the high teenage pregnancy rates currently? Thank you. Vincent Tom.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Yes, you're.
Thank you. So, as an individual,
Continue, Gibson.
And also someone coming from a youth-led organization. First of all, I think we are trying to take on board all stakeholders that are involved in the SRHR programming. We have noted that I think most of the partners which are in the SRHR programming do not make use of the data that is available. For example, I think government has a system, the DHIS2, where our health facilities across Malawi report monthly. So the ministry compiles the data and monthly we can easily access the data regarding the status of youth-friendly services in Malawi. But I think it's sad to note that most of the partners that we are implementing such kind of programs, we are not informed by this data. This is why maybe the issues of high teen pregnancies has maybe shocked a lot of us just because we ignored the need to be informed by the data that our health facilities are reporting. And also in terms of our financing, I think I've noted that most of the partners who are into SRHR, maybe they are focusing solely on family planning, forgetting that we have the youth-friendly health service program as a program that is that government started championing in 2007 through National Health Council of Malawi before Minister of Health took it over as a whole program under Minister of Health. So I would love to reconsider our priorities as a country because we have a lot of indicators under youth-friendly health service program which are not being supported by partners, but rather most of us are focusing only on family planning. This is why whenever we are engaging the district health offices, we use the family planning coordinators, sidelining the youth-friendly health service coordinators. So when such kind of data comes in now, for example, the teenage pregnancies, the one to be asked is not the family planning coordinator, but is the youth-friendly health service coordinator, which already in our programming we are sidelining. So I would love if partners and as youth-led organizations or whoever is into this programming should now consider taking on board the Department of Youth-Friendly, both at national level and also at the decentralized level. And also I think issues of looking at this year's theme, youth engagement. I think I've noted that also youth participation in SRHR budget and decision making and policy processes is a bit low because I think one, capacity of the young people themselves, we needed to develop the capacity of young people in SRHR leadership and policy advocacy to be able to articulate issues at hand. And so we need to develop the capacity of decentralized structures. So these are the district councils and the district health offices together with the local governance structures, which are the village development committees and area development committees, not forgetting the health center advisory committees or hospital advisory committees. These are key when we are to empower young people to actively participate in the programming of SRHR or family planning activities at a district level and also at national level. I think secondly, if you go into the National Youth-Friendly Health Service Strategy, I think it's well articulated, only that we have now not fully embraced the partnership between the government, the CSO sector, and also the private sector. I think the SRHR programming, the private sector is not fully taken on board. I think we only have organizations that are offering services like Banjara Sogoro, we have PSI that are offering services. But then the whole private sector, there is need to engage it so that it should consider investing much in the youth-friendly service strategy, so that we reduce the indicators that we are seeing. Because the teenage pregnancies we are seeing, if you check the indicator of postnatal care, you'll be shocked as well. So if we are to open schools in the next 2 months, most of the girls will go for unsafe abortions. But because we are not paying much attention on that, you find that it will be a shock when the data comes at that particular time. So this is why I'm emphasizing on supporting or investing much in the youth-friendly health service program as a whole package, other than investing in individual programs like family planning or ART or HIV. I think lastly, now because we have over 200 youth-led organizations in Malawi, but that figure, if you see, the active ones are maybe less than 50 or 100 because of issues of funding. And also, if you check the data of the community-based organizations, in the time of National Youth Commission, where a global fund was funding NAC, I think most of the CBOs were active and most of the youth clubs and youth organizations were active. So we need as well to think of now taking on board the CBOs, the youth clubs, the faith-based organizations and youth-led organizations to help us implement this kind of interventions, because these are close to the communities, they know their communities. So if we try to invest in these CBOs, I think they'll help us as well to reduce the indicators that are showing that we are on increase badly. Thank you.
All right, some great recommendations from Vincent Tom, giving us a good insight to what he has been doing on the ground and also what we need to do to be able to to tackle this issue of teenage pregnancies. So I'll move on. The similar question. Just when Vincent was speaking, it reminded me of how UNFPA supports youth engagement by doing these conferences where we are able to speak recommendations. And I remember one of the recommendations we came up with was youth grants. How is UNFPA promoting the recommendation of youth grants, which could be key to also addressing some of the interventions right now to be able to tackle issues of the current high teenage pregnancies? Over to you, Ms. Young.
Thank you very much. There was a conference. The name of the conference was International Conference on the Population and Development. And it was the conference celebrating 25 years of the progress since the first conference held in Cairo in 1994. Malawi was one of the first countries has signed up to recognize that sexual reproductive health and rights are intrinsic human rights and the elements for individual and then the national development. But 25 years later, last year we met, more than 9,000 people met in Nairobi and discussed about individual and the civil society, governments, and then global coalition on the sexual reproductive health and rights progress over the last 25 years. And there was lots of meeting and the youth engagement work, number of youth engagement were conducted. And the various ideas, including grant making, was discussed. So what we are actually doing now, we are discussing with the government to be able to organize National Steering Committee about to check the monitoring the progress as well as the reporting against the national commitments made last year. That includes number of issues on the allocation by the government budget over the sexual reproductive health and rights. So once national committee is settled and established, and the main ministry will be a Ministry of Health and Population, and then we will place this request from the young people for the steering committee discussion that includes development partner, government, as well as the civil society, and hopefully with the private sector, to be able to realize those the requests made by the young people as well. And at the same time, I mentioned earlier that definitely it is very much encouraging for us to provide the resources for young people to be able to take forward those initiatives related to increased accessibility and the awareness of, around the sexual reproductive rights. It is also highly encouraged. At the same time, we also need to revisit what we can do now in our community as well. Because our resources fully understand and fully recognize it. That's why UNFPA and the government trying to work on the grant issue. But at the same time, we are also expecting much more voices and the evidences, and then the discussion evolve around what we can do, what young people actually can do at the moment in the community without additional resources to really influence your own peer, friends, practice the knowledge and information available on the sexual reproductive health and rights. I am fully agree that more information need to be provided to the young people. More services need to be given to the young people as well. But let's face one fact as well. Many young people, not all, having the information, having the sometimes the services, but for whatever reason is, they don't issue. Because do we really blindly believe that majority of young people still do not have the information, or even for those people who have it, for whatever reason, they do not practice it. Then together with the young people, even without additional information, additional resources, we can come out with a certain activity where we are living, where we are interacting with my friends and my family. But somehow there is only one good XYZ. Yes, that is true. But how about people who has access, who has information, do not practice it? How are we going to tackle both issues together in more innovative way? Otherwise, as I mentioned that, Malawi is facing a lot of challenges, and we will continue to advocate more resources to be allocated for the investment into the young people, particularly on the SRH issue. But at the same time, if we use that money, that means there is another sector. Because we are still fighting for the resources. Then what innovation, what proactive activity will be initiated by young people to be able to really spread more productive, constructive, and evidence basis, knowledge basis, sexual reproductive health behavior. Certain things require resources, certain things do not require resources. But how are we going to tackle both issues? I don't know whether it is enough.
All right, thank you for that great contribution. I hope every youth is noting. And if some of the participants have questions, there's the Q&A box. You can always type up the questions. So time is not with us. So I'd like to conclude this panel discussion with words from Mr. Chimwemwe John Paul Manyozo. Having heard contributions from the two participants, Vincent Tom and the country resident for UNFPA, and your expertise in education, what's your recommendation for us as a country and as youths? What do we need to do to move on?
Okay, I think for me, the main issue would be what Ms. Young just shared, where there's one question that I've always asked myself: does knowledge, not knowledge, does awareness always translate to action? And I have seen programs that are investing into girls' education. They are given the requisite knowledge, but the behavior that we want to get at the end of the day is not what we are getting. This is not only in sexual and reproductive health. We are even seeing this in civil societies, where we have people who are trained or are given information about their rights, and the hope is they are now going to be able to demand and live on the information they have been given. But there is a disconnect between the behavior or the action and the information they are getting. So the question I think I would pose to all of us as young people is, what is that gap? Why is it that the information that we are getting, which is supposed to lead to a particular change, is not leading to that particular change? And I think once, not even the government, we can leave the government, we can leave UNFPA, because I am that young person who received that information. And the action is not dependent on what UNFPA or the government does. No. Okay, let me just give you a recent example, okay? We all have information about COVID-19. We all have been told about what we are supposed to do to prevent getting COVID-19. How many people are adhering to that information? Not many. Is it because they don't know? No, some know actually. Even they are in the forefront training people on how they are supposed to protect themselves. But they have made a decision just not to act on that information. Do we then blame the government when I personally have taken a responsibility to ignore that counsel and then take another way? Now, even if I am to go to UNFPA and ask for funding, they're going to ask me a question. You know what you're supposed to do. Why are you not doing it? So the question is, we have information as young people about sexual and reproductive health rights. We have information about human rights. And some of the people that are present on this panel, sorry to say this, but they are regular members of trainings in various sectors. You have attended almost every training that has been organized by almost every organization or almost every fellowship. You have been part of it. Why are we not acting on that information? So the moment for me we start to think of why we are not acting on that information, and we figure out what we can do to start acting on that information, to me, that's the time then we can start inviting the government, we can start inviting NGOs, we can start inviting the UN family to say, okay, we have found what the problem is, and here is a solution to that problem. Otherwise, we are going to continue having this conversation, and I bet you next year, around this time or around the harvest time, we're still going to be talking about the increase in pregnancies. There's going to be a dropout rate. There are going to be girls that are part of bursary programs that are pregnant and nobody still doesn't understand why they are pregnant, even though they have all these resources. We're still going to be talking about defilement, despite raising awareness in Nzimba and all the areas where defilement cases are high. You're still going each and every year to have a conversation about why the cases of defilement are high. So I'll close. It's not something motivating, but I think it's a throwing it back at us as young people. What is it that we are not doing and why are we not doing it? So I'll stop there.
All right, thank you for finishing the session on a really high note. What are we not doing as youths? And thank you once again for every panelist who joined this panel to discuss further on education and sexual reproductive health rights and the current situation of COVID-19, how it's playing a huge role in this. So next up, we have our last panel discussion, which is called Learning from the Past, Planning for the Future, Building Synergies to Catalyze Local Action for Inclusive National Development. So for this panel, we have Gibson Chisale, Mazigo Matemba. Are you present with us?
Mazigo is around, but she's in the attendees section. I requested for her email address. I didn't get it. If she can send me an email address so that I can send a panelist link immediately. Yep.
We have Mazigo. Gibson. Is Gibson, isn't he also in the... So as we wait for the panelists to just quickly join with us, I would love us to reflect on the theme, which is youth engagement, national and global level. In most cases, we tend to forget the local level, and we could also be thinking in terms of local entrepreneurship. How far could local entrepreneurship also help us as youths? Because the stats show us that we have a huge percentage of youths living in the rural area. So that's another aspect of it that we could be thinking about on how best we could move forth. And there was a question in the chat box. They're asking on, do you have specific institutions that you help? Oh, so that was directed at the UNFPA. So for that question, Gibson Chisale, We'll probably forward it, and then you'll be able to get that response on your question. Are the panelists in so far? At Ken?
Gibson and I think Maziko is still here. Okay, okay. So I'm sending you a link, Maziko. Check it now. Gibson, could you please use the link?
So as we're waiting for some participants, we might have some questions on, or some contributions on how you think we can plan forward. Having heard the issues which have been talked of, are your suggestions to build, what sort of collaborations do we need to be able to catalyze that local action? And as we heard, the National Planning Commission, they'll include us as youths in the vision, in creating the vision for the nation. So if you have questions, you would be typing them up. And also, if you are joining us from the radio, thank you very much. You would also, if you're on Facebook, you could also type it right or under the video if you have specific questions you would love to ask or contributions. We'll be able to share with us, we'll be able to share with everyone live on the webinar. So without further ado, I've seen our first panelist, Mr. Gibson Chisale, one of our fellows, has joined us. Hello, Gibson, are you there? Your mic.
Yes, good morning, Tanaka, and everyone who is here. I'm happy to be on the panelist on the International Youth Day. It's our day. I think you've seen a number of panelists giving out issues that are youth-driven for the betterment of our country and young people.
From that.
I missed you.
Okay, so I was saying, as a youth leader, acting from the civic space, what do you think as youths? Do we have enough civic space? What do we need to do on that area?
I think from what Mr. Manyozo just said, it has really touched me as a leader who was actually part of a person that I've attended several meetings, but I think we haven't done much in terms of implementing. Not that because we don't want to implement activities that we've actually have the information from other societies, but I think we are lacking part of the issue to say the commitment part of it. I think young people, it's high time that we need to be committed and show that what we are doing is a calling. What we're doing, we actually want to make a change and possibly change for the better of the young people in the country. The civic space as it is, we have a lot of problems. We have got a lot of prayers within the civic space that are actually doing quite a commendable job. But I think we don't have much information when we're going on the ground. So it is important that as leaders, we should be able to give out what we think can help the country and possibly can help the community that we're working on. I look at looking at the government. I think there is need to give a position, possibly youthful position in nature to the young people, so that we young people we can be able to engage them, talk to them, and possibly give them what we want. Because there's this other issue, we say nothing for us without us. So it becomes impossible when a leader is leading and possibly is on the leading place, but is not a youthful. So I think government should put a deliberate policy where such positions should be led by youthful. And also we need to have, the government has to create decent jobs for the young people, those that have gone to the corridors. At least they should be able to get decent jobs for the corridors. And also, if you look at this country, we have many graduates that are coming from the colleges and other universities, but we don't have enough jobs to accommodate those people that are coming from the universities and other colleges. It is important that the government should put other policies where it gives young people at least a good percentage projects or possibly contracts into government projects, so that the same young people can be able to create other youthful jobs and employ other young people. The other issue that I see in this civic space, there is need to make position, give position to the young people, which are decision-making in nature. Not just saying we want young people to be in the positions, but yet they can't make a decision. I'll give an example where a youth councillor sits in a district council or city council, but he has no voice to make a vote, to have a vote, which means he can only contribute, he or she can only contribute, but cannot make a decision. So we need such issues to be addressed, so that young people are able to give in their views and then be decision makers. In that way, I think we would be able to say we can win the 2063 agenda and other SDGs that are being championed by us, the young people. Yeah, I think that's what I would say in terms of the civic space.
Sorry, I forgot. All right, so that's really key that you've talked of how we need to act in the civic space, which is really important because it's one way we can positively contribute to the policy landscape. So to think of it in that way, that we also have a role as youths, as the previous speakers have said, that it needs to start from us. What are we doing before we start to initiate the implementing partners such as UNFPA and the government itself as youths? So I would love to quickly hear from Vincent Tom, on what's his quick takeaway message for all of us youth. How should we go on? What's the action? Because as we are youths, we need to say, what do we need to do next? It starts from us. Vincent Tom.
Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, there is need to empower ourselves civically. So how do we empower ourselves civically? I think first of all, we need to understand the current laws and regulations that are guiding us in terms of our participation in decision making or any policy processes. Secondly, I think willingness from us, because if we wait for someone to push us, I think we are cheating ourselves. So whatever we are getting from the partners or government, I think we need to take it on board, so that we can push the agenda that we have. So, for example, our presence in local governance structures is optional according to for example, the Decentralization Policy or Local Government Act. So what we need to do is now to develop our capacity through our youth structures. We can easily engage the governance structures using the national youth policy and for example, the SRHR strategy, all the policies that are giving us the mandate. Secondly, we know the staff as young people. So we can also compete for positions in for example, contesting as ward councillors, as the member of parliaments, or positions in the village development committees and the NDCs. This will give opportunity to us as young people. Secondly, for those that have attended a lot of workshops, we have a lot of young people that have attended a lot of trainings, a lot of workshops. I think it's high time now we start giving back to our fellow young people in the youth clubs, youth networks, or youth movements. So engaging these platforms, I think, will help a lot to open up their thinking, open up their knowledge, so that they can see how they can take on board the VDCs, the ADCs, and the full councils. The other issue, I think, is now the partners that have programs should now start engaging actively the VDCs and the ADCs. I think most of us, whenever we introduce our programs at the district executive committees or the full council, it ends there. We don't go below further to ADC or VD, because these youth clubs or youth organizations are report quarter or monthly to the VDCs and ADCs. So when the partners or government is actively engaged with the VDCs and the ADCs, it will be easy for the information to trickle down to the youth clubs or the CPOs or the small faith-based organizations. And also, I think the documents we have, reading the National Youth Policy itself, I think it's not attractive to young people, or reading the Local Government Act is not attractive to young people. Let's develop a document or something that can attract the attention of the young person to go through the document. I think the coming of the WhatsApp, the Facebook, I think now we can digitize the legislation that we have that will civically empower us as young people to start now thinking of actively participating. I know in the past we had the civics subject in schools. So that was instilling values of Malawian in young people. Then they also had the National Youth Service that time, the vibrant one. And I know we had a team that traveled to Kenya or somewhere to learn about their National Youth Service. Let's start now domesticating such kind of programs, developing the civics subjects or developing the vibrant National Youth Service that can help us as young people to now start thinking of actively contributing or participating to the socio-economic development of the country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that great contribution. So before I move on to the next speaker, I would like to say, did you know, on the UNAIDS website, they've posted that the economic impact of COVID-19 is set to make the job market more challenging for youths. The ILO reports that in the first quarter of 2020, about 5.4% of global working hours, that is equivalent to 155 million full-time jobs, were lost relatively to the fourth quarter of 2019. So Lusungu, how would you like to reflect on that fact that there's loss of there's loss of jobs, and youths will be they'll be directly impacted with this. And how, as a country, plan to move forth, reflecting on what the Honorable Minister, Ms. Vera Kamtukule, talked about. Thank you very much. Lusungu.
Okay, thank you, Tanaka. Based on that perspective, when we look at our country right now, despite the coming in of the pandemic, I should say, we are already struggling with ensuring there is enough employment for the youth, and there is already a challenge in that area. So if we are saying the youth, a lot of people have lost their job, we are definitely saying there are more youth that have been added to the unemployment list. So what does that mean for the nation? That means we have taken, we might have been on a scale of 5, so we might have taken another 1 or 2 steps backwards, which should be a challenge. So to me, I feel like we should step up. We should step up as much as we can. What can we do? First of all, we should, like Vincent was saying, we are not utilizing the local structures. What are we doing? We need to ensure that there's adequate human resource at the district level, the local levels. I think these people, if we can put in enough qualified, they may be able to reach out to enough people, the youth at the local structures. Like if those that have skills in the informal sector, we can utilize them. They don't need to be sacked, they are self-employed. So if we can utilize them to ensure that the youth that have lost the jobs, the youth that are not currently employed, should learn from one another, or can just be enrolled there for the time being, I think we could be somewhere else. The other thing is that I think if we can remove the administrative restrictions and procedures that are there for the youth to register businesses and so forth and so on, I think we could get a number of youths registering with businesses, small businesses at the time being, while we're waiting for the pandemic to go away, which I'm sure is not going away anytime soon. But if we could look at that area to say, if we reduce and remove the administrative structures that are there, because I think the program that we have now, the procedures that are there, they're not attractive to the youth. So most youth would not opt to register their businesses. They'd rather do it at a small scale, and then which is not good for the nation currently. So if we are losing people from their workplaces, and then people are not registering if they are doing businesses, where are we going to get the money, the income? So you see the economic of the country will further deteriorate. So if we can remove the administrative structures and then make the registration cost and the registration procedure just a bit attractive for the youth, I think that will take us somewhere in the next years to come. Thank you, Tanaka.
So having heard from a couple of youths, I would love to hear from the last youth before I conclude the session on what sort of area is he thinking on inclusive national development as youths. How can we contribute to that? That will close the last panel discussion. Can we hear from Chimwemwe Manyozo on that one? National inclusive development as youths.
Hello. Hello. Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is this Maziko?
Maziko, right?
Yes.
All right, just hold on. The current speaker should just answer the question. I'll come back.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I was concentrating on inclusive national development, and I think the first thing when it comes to inclusive national development is an understanding that everybody has to be part of the national development agenda. And there is usually a tendency, I don't know whether it's by design or it's basically how we are framed, but there are certain groups of people which are considered in a way, quote unquote, outsiders, and there are those that are insiders. And when we are designing programs, when we are designing various interventions, when we are offering positions, either private sector or government, you find that there are certain groups or there's certain ethnic groups that end up getting a fair share, I think, of the cake, if I may use that term. But when it comes to us, I think as a next generation, the thinking of inclusive development, I think we have to start first of all considering each and every person as a person first. Because sorry to say this, but I think the previous generation, the generation of our parents, did a very good job at othering. So you're basically looking at someone from your tribe as more Malawian or more human as compared to somebody from another tribe, or a person with a disability, or people from LGBTI community, and I can go on and on and on. So it's an issue of a mindset, first of all, especially for young people, where you view each and every person as a Malawian. And secondly, you also view that that particular person can make a substantive contribution to the country's development. And once you recognize the humanity of a particular person, it becomes easier to bring in inclusive national development for all. But when you recognize a particular group as human and another group not as human, it is natural for you to structure development agenda favoring the ones you call human, and that agenda in a way alienates the ones that you consider not to be human. So it's nothing to do, it's that mindset, that when you set that particular mindset, the rest of the things for me are things that are going to be able to fall into place. So I'll close with that one. Thank you so much.
All right, last but not least, I would love to hear from Maziko Matemba on his experience on the ground and how he thinks as youths we need to move on to be able to achieve the Agenda 2063. Thank you very much, Maziko. Over to you.
From the member, but also listening from Madam Young from a UNFPA and all the distinguished panelists. I think what I'm getting from Agenda 2063 as a country, I think there's a lot of things which we need to learn. But also the question could be, how aggressive are we as a society, as a community, as a young people? Because we cannot achieve Agenda 2063 when we as a youth were very passive. We're still living passive life like the older generation. We need to be different from the older generation and be the new generation. For example, now we have COVID-19. How many of we as a youth are we aggressive enough to address some of the bottlenecks 19 that I think we have, and the energized responses, whether sexual reproductive health and rights and other things which we feel as young people, we have got that energy and we are living in the new generation. So I think the first thing which we need to do is what is it in the Agenda 2063? But also, if you look at different development agendas, like the Malawi development strategy, recently the planning commission produced a report. How many are the youth led through that report to see areas which we can maybe venture in or respond to, or maybe addressing as young people? So those things people cannot tell us on what to do, but they have to be very aggressive. For example, even UNFPA have had a lot of engagement and have involved a lot of youth, including other UN agencies. But how many of us have we been able to take advantage on the commitments which Malawi has made, for example, and also what can it do? For example, now issues of early pregnancies, which is happening because out of COVID. What do we as young people, because we're waiting for the older generation to tell us what we need to do. I think there are certain things which as young people, we can learn from the older generation so that we don't repeat what the older generation were doing. So in terms of the agenda 2063, I think we need to be very focused and we need to put our energy where it matters most. Unfortunately for Malawi, almost 70% of the population are youth. So it means that almost the whole population of Malawi, even if you talk about the politics, it means the people who voted for leaders, it means that they're the youth. But what are we doing? Are we just go for voting the leaders and ourselves, we don't even get engaged in other productive areas? For example, preventing early child marriages, preventing ourselves from getting pregnant if you're a woman or a young lady, but also maybe do much into other development initiative which the country is having. So I think this is a call for all of us, because we will not be able to achieve Agenda 2063 if you think maybe it's only a government who will be able to provide what we want, because government will have limitations all the time. But the question is other thing. But also another thing which I want to add is to look at our education system. Does our education system address the bottlenecks which young people do face when they finish college or they finish high school or secondary school? What are the things which young people can do? If you go to other countries, you find the young people, they're doing the issue. So I think those are some of the things which we need to do. So I believe maybe we need to take advantage of the forum and platforms which we have. How do we make sure, for example, for these platforms, it's an important platform. I want to thank NDI and the government, UNFPA and other agencies for coming up with this important discussion. But I think the honors should be, let's be action oriented. Let's do action. We have talked enough. We have complained enough as young people. But I think we have the duty to make sure that we can make a difference. We can be counted. We are 70%. And it means we are 70%, we are the majority. And we can make agenda for this country, other than maybe just crying that maybe we are not being involved, or maybe certain things are not happening. But I think as young people, we have got all in our hands. We can make this country work for us, other than maybe making the country to work for us. So we can also do those innovation, learning from the past experience from our forefathers. So I think that's the challenge. That's the challenge which I'm putting forward to all of us, that let's move forward. After this call, we can engage and share information, whether it's on health, sexual and reproductive health and rights, or maybe it's about development, or whether it's about employment, or any other way of doing business. We need to do business as unusual, because now we are living in a new normal because of COVID and other international development challenges, which as the world, as a country, we're faced with. So I want to thank you so much for taking your time. Let me apologize at the beginning of the call. I couldn't connect because I was in another, I joined in another link, which was not connecting to this platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful contribution of how, as youth, we need to move forward on set. Once we hold the next International Youth Day next year, we'll be able to reflect on the current discussion and what we have achieved so far, since success will be measured in advocacy, is always measured on the sort of achievements we're doing on the ground. So we'll be able to reflect on the current discussion. So the next activity on the agenda is the Youth Voices video. So I'd like to ask Ken if you would screen the Youth Voices video. Thank you very much. Ken?
Yes, just a second.
All right. So once again, as we're waiting for the video, the event was organized by the fellows of the Next Generation CSO Leaders Academy and the National Democratic Institute, funded by NED. And I would love to say thank you to all the fellows from Lusungu, Gibson, Alice, Charles, Khadija, Mphatso, Juliet, Paul, Sylvester, Yamigani. That thank you for putting up a good platform where we've been able to hear all sorts of views from different panelists, which have been so informative and also a good takeaway home message for all of us. The video.
Technology challenges still working on. So sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think we for this Vox Pop, can you hear the sound? Can you?
But it's too low.
Okay, I just wanted to check that. I think for this one will not play, but for the Honorable Minister, I'll work on it.
I'm Idrissa Kobanda. I am 23. I am currently doing a graduate internship program at the Lusungu City Council. What I expect from the government is for them to come up with a new department, a different department that deals with this type of development. As I've been an intern for, this is going to be my third year. This is supposed to go like 1, 2, 3 years. So I feel like they should open up new jobs. As the government is supposed to be the #1 provider, giving you. I feel like they should open up their different departments because they have other people filling up those offices, people that have already passed their retirement age. I don't think you are given a chance to change the country because these offices, as I already said, they're filled with people that are way past their retirement ages, but the youth can also take over because we have a lot of youth that are smart, really make a change.
One of the challenges that I've been meeting so far is the challenge of unemployment. Despite that, there can be other things that I can do. I'm also capable of creating the private friends, but then what's the most difficult thing is sometimes having a conducive environment where that can happen. There are many ways that I think it contribute towards the country. And one of it is not to stay idle and wait for the government to employ me, despite the biggest challenge that we're facing. So if I can create a room for myself and venture into entrepreneurship, of which might even benefit other people from the country, starting from my community and going abroad to the nation.
My name is Priscilla Silva. Like I say, I'm an entrepreneur. As far as change is concerned, yeah, I would think about changing the education system, because I think most of the time, like in the education system that's in Malawi, right, it's mostly focused on like things that are not functional. We don't get functional skills. So for me, I was expecting an education system that actually focuses on functional skills. By functional skills, I mean like skills that help us function in the society. For example, communication skills, like business skills, sometimes might make someone grow as a person. I think this whole habit of like sitting around and waiting for someone to give you a chance is something that we should like try and like move away from. For example, if someone says, I'm gonna give you loans, government says I'm gonna give you loans. Do you have the skills so that actually gonna be able to give you the business, like the actual business that's gonna be viable and sustainable? As J.F. Kennedy said, ask not what the government or country can do for you, but they have to ask yourself, what can you do for the country? There's no amount of you just waiting and sitting around the road and do something wrong. But you always have to look into yourself, what can you provide? What skills do you have? What skills can you learn to be able to be in a better place?
I'm not sure if the audio was okay, but we are trying to upload the minister's speech because it can only be shared through Dropbox, Google Drive, and the box. So it will take a little bit longer. So if Tanaka, he can take over for a few minutes, I'll let you know.
All right. So as we wait for the address from the minister, I would love to have a last round of questions from the audience. You can type the question on the chat, and with a good set of the panelists will try to respond to all the questions. We still have Gibson Chisale, one of the panelists still here. Lusungu is still here. Vincent Tom is still here. from the chat? Any questions? We'll be waiting for the questions you have that we could be talked of, or something we missed in the discussion. Because this is the platform when we say we want the platform. So being able to raise those questions and we should be able to get the answers would be quite helpful at this moment. Any questions from the audience? As we wait for the audience to be typing the questions, are we updating on social media? We need to create that youth quake where you take your selfie, a message for your fellow youths on International Youth Day as a way of showing and also sending out a message to fellow youths on what we need to do as a country or as fellow youths or as a message to implementing partners. So there's a quick question here for Mr. Vincent Tom, which someone has raised, that since you've been working in Palombe, do you think what potential lies in rural youth entrepreneurship? Vincent Tom. Vincent Tom, I still on? Okay, any panelists can take that question. There's a question here on what potential lies in rural youth entrepreneurship. Gibson Chisale, would you want to attempt that one? Your mic is off, Gibson.
Yeah, come again. What's the question?
What the person is asking, what potential lies in rural investing in rural entrepreneurship?
Basically, in the Lulo, we don't have a number of, we don't have much to invest. Possibly I would say there is a young person that would want to go into agricultural sector, but in terms of entrepreneurship, the way the young person in the rural area who implement and possibly invest is much lower than those staying in the urban, because in the urban it means you need to if you want to go into agriculture entrepreneurship, it means you need to pay for the place, you need to do the transportation. Whilst in the rural is specifically you just need to buy utilities and possibly fertilizer, and then go on the farm and then do the farming. At the end of the day, you use cheap labor than the urban. So the different in terms of entrepreneurship in urban sector and rural area is where the same value of money you have in terms of investing is a bit cheaper in the rural, whilst in the urban is higher. And in the rural, you make more profits compared to the urban. So the significant factor of it is that the other side, things are cheaper in terms of labor, in terms of implementation, whilst in the urban is cheaper in all angles. So it's good to invest in the rural than do the entrepreneurship in the urban.
Maybe Tanaka, just to build on what Gibson was saying, I'd like to believe what he meant to say was there is full potential when we look at entrepreneurship, looking at the rural areas, in a sense that we already have a number of the youth, despite being in the rural, that are already taking part, that are already finding their place in the entrepreneurship side. But like I said in the beginning, I was stressing much on the informal sector to say most of the youth in the rural areas, yes, they're involved in businesses, yes, they're involved in a number of income earning activities, just that they are not registered, it's just that they are not known because a lot of focus hasn't been placed on them. So the thing is, the potential lies there, it's just that we need to harness that potential. We need to add more sauce to it, and it wouldn't cost us a lot because like I said, most of the rural youth are gaining their skills and their knowledge through the informal sector, whether through the family members or from friends. Like for example, here in Kodakoda, it's a lecture area, so a child who wants to start a business in fishing will just have to go to the father and maybe a relative and ask how to do the fishing. And at the end of the day, he gets the fish and he starts selling. What you can do for that child to raise that child from where he is and put him to that level that you want, he already has the ability. You just need a little bit of sauce. So the potential is there, but I feel like if we could just add a little bit to them, if we could just push just a little bit more, and then we could have that impact, that outcome that we are looking for. That is an improved economic status and an improved participation of the youth when it comes to development.
So since you're already on the spotlight, there was a question for you. According to your first panel that you were doing, do you think women are represented in a way that women would feel to be represented in the process of governance?
I did get you at the last.
So the person is
when
asking.
You're making your point, I think your network is tripping.
So the person is asking that, are the women represented enough in the process of governance as the way you are, the way you want it to feel, like how you feel to be represented?
Okay, thank you. Are the women being represented? Yes, but are they being represented enough? I would say no, because let's take the example. Just recently, when the president was selecting the ministries, we had an issue of the elimination of gender, and a number of women had to make noise on that. What I think what drove them to do that was the fact that they felt left out. They felt sidelined, and they felt like a platform where they could voice out, where they could be heard, or where they could be included in governance was taken away from them. And if you look at the numbers of women that were in the ministries, you could see that the number was a bit low. So when I'm saying we are not being represented enough, I'm saying it in the state that numbers are always not adding up. I would like to see women having the same chance, the same opportunities, the same platform that men have. So if we're talking about equal presentation, I'm not talking about giving me 30%. I'm talking about giving a woman the 50%, or the other gender can have the other 50%. So basically, we in as much as we know our culture has a lot to do with that, or has a lot to do with how we perceive a woman in power. But I think it's high time we move and we shift from that, because we are educated people, and people should, and the education should change us. With the time that is passing, a lot of things are changing, and we need to adopt that, to say a woman has all the abilities and all the skills that are required to be a leader. And we have seen women that are in power that are doing so great, like the way the minister was talking. She said youth-led platforms were youth-led businesses, women-led businesses were doing much better. To say, so it only shows that women have the potential, they have the ability, but yet we still have. It is not as much as it was in the past, but it's still there. There's still a limitation to the way women would want to be presented. So we are not being presented enough. We need much platform, we need much inclusion, and we need much participation. So that's all I can say. Thank you.
All right, that's a great response. I see my co-host is also here. What are your comments, Tisu, on?
Okay, before you ask another question, there is a question from the chat by Sylvester. Let me check. The question says, it goes to Vincent. You did mention that a big shock rises when number of teenage pregnancies is reported to be skyrocketing. In your comments, you also continue to say that there is no good feedback with implementing partners on the intervention so far taken. What do you think? Why is it that there is a gap coming in and moving forward? How best are key stakeholders supposed to do to ensure that everyone is being taken account on board? Vincent?
Yeah. Can I come in?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think first of all, we need to now do a postmortem of what we have been doing. I think this COVID-19 has just revealed the gaps that we have left all along. So I think first of all, we need to develop the capacity of service providers. I think the feedback from the partners and us as youth-led organizations or youth activists is that we need to ensure that the service providers are well capacitated, because I think on average, more service providers that are trained in youth-friendly service, I think on average is maybe 50 or 60% of the service providers in our health facilities. So we need to invest more in the training of these service providers, because most of young people are shunning or are running away from accessing these services from health facilities just because the environment is not conducive to them to access the services. So for us to improve is to ensure that we train more service providers. Secondly, I think it's about now taking on board the youth volunteers. We have the YCBDs, the peer educators. Let's have more of these young people to help the health facility service providers to ensure that we improve service uptake in our health facilities, and also the minimum package that is provided at the community through the peer educators and the youth community-based distribution agents who create demand for family planning contraception. And also for, I know UNFPA and other partners have trained the TOTs from youth-led organizations. I think they need to do more to orient their fellow youth leaders in the youth-led organizations, and also to orient community members on CSE and as well as SRHR. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vincent. There was also a question asking about the youth parliament. What do you think is the importance of having a youth parliament here in Malawi?
I'm also taking that question, or someone else?
No, that question goes to Lusungu. Lusungu?
I'm sorry, can you come again? Can you come again with a question?
Okay, there was a question saying why the youth parliament stopped working, and what do you think is the significance or the importance of having youth parliament here in Malawi?
Okay, why do I think the youth parliament stopped working? I would say basically there was a lot of demotivation. Why did I say so? The youth parliament would be in session, and the youth would come out to voice out their views, their ideas, but were those ideas being taken into consideration? Did the youth see the importance of their ideas being taken into place and policies being made around them, discussions being made centered on those ideas? They did not see that. So I think a lot of youth ended up being demotivated, and you could see the participation went down, and then at the end, I think that's the main point that maybe led to the seizure of the youth parliament. Do I think they're important? Yes, I do think they're important. First of all, I believe if you want to train a child in the right path, you have to be at the center of it. How do you train somebody in the right direction? Is by giving them the platform to learn the basic necessities and skills and necessities that they can that you want to address, and what you want them to be in the future. What I'm saying basically is the platform would the youth parliament would have been a platform where we could have built the next leaders, like the next lead, like for example the way the academy is. We go there and we learn a number of things. There are people that come that we get into contact now every now and again, and they are teaching us every now and again. We are getting skills from them every now and again. So I think the youth parliament would have been a good platform where, if you want the next leaders to have the right skills, the people in power right now would have been using that platform. The people in power, if they wanted to communicate to the youth, they would have been using that platform. Now it's very hard to find to get the views of the youth. If you are targeting the grassroots youth, because let's face it, we do not have a specific or a platform where we can directly say this is where you're going to find the youth, unless if you come out of somewhere and then you have to go down and look for them, maybe in the youth clubs or wherever the youth gather. But I think having representatives of these youth would have been much simpler and a much systematic way of gathering the ideas and the ideas or the voices of the youth. So yeah, I think it's very important that we should have that, and it should be functional and it should be working. Yeah, thank you, Tisu.
Thank you so much, Lusungu, for your contribution. Who posted a question here? Can someone highlight on SMEs and what the Honorable said in relation to empowering the youth? Anyone to come in? Hello?
I did not get the question. Can you come in again?
Okay, on the question and answer box, there is a question from Paul Junju. is asking someone to highlight on SMEs and what the Honorable said in relation to empowering the youth. So if you feel like answering, you can take that question as well. Gibson. Gibson, you're not audible enough.
Okay, the Honorable Minister actually highlighted to say young people shouldn't just be thinking of going to school and then getting employed, but rather I think it's time that young people should be on the side where they think of creating opportunities in terms of entrepreneurships and create jobs for other young people. And then he actually talked of issues to do with those loans so that young people can be able to get those loans and then do the businesses that they feel can help with a very minimal interest loan. So I think that those are some of the issues that the Honorable talked, and possibly he also highlighted to talk how he thinks the government will create the 1 million jobs. Basically, she said the other regime did not do much of consultation, and this time around they're actually trying to do consultation so that what is needed is what they should give what young people are actually doing. So she didn't go much into the inside, but then she tackled some of those issues, as I'm saying. Thank you.
I think your question has been answered, Paul. We were waiting for a video from Kenneth. Kenneth, are you ready for the video? Kenneth.
Yes, I'm giving it a final try. If this doesn't work, we'll post it on our Facebook page. So the 2 videos will post it. This is the final try.
All right, thank you. So, as we are waiting for the video, there is also another question here from Pastor Makamakoko. He says, as we all know that, hello? Hello?
We'll do sound. All right.
My name is Ulemu Msungama, Minister of Youth and Sports in Malawi. As you know that 12 August is always set aside for International Youth Day by United Nations, just to create an awareness and reflect issues that are affecting young people in the world. It's a special day.
I think my best has not been good enough, so I think we'll share the minister's address and the other video on the WhatsApp page.
Action.
Thank you.
I feel like it's a theme for the season.
All right. So since we're going to share the two videos, the youth voices and the minister's address, those were the last two concluding things on our agenda. I would like lastly to thank everyone for joining the call with us. And also we have gotten a lot of good key messages. And I would also love to thank Ned for funding us to be able to hold this activity. It's been a great pleasure to also host this with Tisungani, and also to be able to hear the sort of different contributions from everyone, from the panelists and also from the audience. And I would like to thank you for having time to go on Facebook to be able to join us on this webinar. And my concluding remarks would be, as youths, we have a lot of doors which are open. If one door is closing, let us not focus on that one door, as another door will be open at the same time. Let us work on ourselves, face up. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And as Malawians, let's make our country proud. We are the warm heart of Africa. Together we can do it. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. Thank you.
I also thank you guys for your participation. It was so interactive. The last word I can say is nothing for us without us. We need to have a vision and be committed to it as vulnerable faith. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think I've seen Kondowe, the activists for education, coming in late. Feel welcome. I think your point has been taken. Thank you so much, guys.